The first thing people noticed was how empty the space around him felt. An airport gate buzzing with rolling suitcases, crying toddlers, overhead announcements, and hurried footsteps somehow left one man sitting alone, folded inward, as if the noise flowed around him without ever touching him. His hands were clasped too tightly, knuckles pale, eyes fixed on the departure board that kept changing times like it couldn't decide whether to be kind or cruel. He looked like someone waiting for something far bigger than a flight, like someone standing at the edge of a life that had already taken too much from him. And then, from behind him, 3 small shadows drew close, and everything began to shift. Before we go any further, take a second to pause here. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen between strangers, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this only matter if they reach hearts willing to feel them. The man's name was Daniel, though no one at the gate knew it, and no one had reason to ask. He had learned how to disappear in plain sight over the past 3 years, ever since life narrowed him down to a single title that felt heavier than any suitcase he'd ever carried. Single dad, widower, survivor of a life that once made sense. The airport was just another temporary place, another in-between, but it carried weight today. He was flying home after attending a work conference he could barely afford to leave for, because every day away from his son felt like borrowed time. His phone sat dark in his pocket, battery dead, anxiety buzzing louder than any engine on the tarmac. He kept replaying the same thoughts, worrying about whether he was doing enough, whether his son felt the emptiness Daniel tried so hard to hide, whether love could ever be enough to fill the space grief left behind. The gate area was crowded with families traveling together, couples leaning into each other, parents juggling snacks and boarding passes. Daniel sat stiffly, feeling like an unfinished sentence among complete stories. He was tired in a way sleep never fixed. His shoulders carried the weight of mornings packed with lunches, nights filled with math homework and quiet tears, and the constant fear that one wrong step could unravel everything he had rebuilt from the wreckage of loss. Airports had always been hard for him. He and his wife used to travel together before life split itself into before and after. Now every departure board felt like a reminder that people left, even when they promised they wouldn't. That was when he felt it, the slightest tug at the edge of his awareness, not sound at first, but presence. 3 little figures stood close enough that he could feel the warmth of them, their shadows overlapping his shoes. He looked down and saw 3 girls, all about the same age, their hair pulled back in uneven ponytails, backpacks nearly as big as their torsos. They were identical in the way only siblings could be, sharing the same eyes, the same cautious hope written across their faces. They hovered, glancing behind them nervously, then back at Daniel, as if he were the only solid thing in a moving world. One of them leaned in close enough that Daniel could see a faint smudge of marker on her cheek, and whispered something so quiet it barely registered over the hum of the terminal. They needed him to pretend. They needed him to be their father, just for a moment. The words weren't spoken loudly, but they landed with surprising force, like a stone dropped into still water. Daniel froze, heart stuttering. He looked past them, searching for an adult, for someone who would explain this strange, fragile request. Instead, he noticed a man across the gate watching them too closely, his gaze sharp and unsettling, his impatience obvious even from a distance. Daniel's instincts, dulled by grief but never gone, snapped awake. He didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He simply shifted his posture, opening the space beside him, placing a gentle hand on the back of the nearest girl in a way that felt natural, practiced, real. In that instant, something ancient and protective rose up inside him, the same force that made him stand guard at his son's bedroom door during thunderstorms, the same instinct that had carried him through sleepless nights and impossible days. The girls relaxed almost immediately, leaning into the illusion with the ease of children who needed safety more than explanations. Around them, the airport continued as usual, unaware that something quietly extraordinary was unfolding. The man who had been watching them lost interest, his attention sliding elsewhere once the picture changed. A single dad with 3 kids was invisible in the best possible way. Daniel felt the tension leave the girls' small frames, felt their breathing even out as they sat close, knees brushing his leg. He could sense how afraid they had been, how quickly fear had learned to live inside them, and it broke something open in his chest he didn't realize had closed. Time stretched. Boarding was delayed. No one moved. The girls stayed where they were, their trust a weight and a gift. Daniel learned their names eventually, offered quietly, almost shyly, though he never asked for details. They were traveling alone for the first time, sent ahead to meet family, their parents believing the world was safer than it sometimes is. The airport, with all its cameras and crowds, had still managed to feel terrifying to three small souls navigating it without an anchor. Daniel didn't judge the parents. He knew how quickly life forced impossible choices. As they waited, Daniel found himself slipping into habits he hadn't used in a while. He checked the time, counted snacks, straightened straps, offered calm reassurance without words. The girls watched him with wide eyes, as if memorizing the way safety looked. He realized, with a quiet ache, that they were about the same age his son had been when his mother died. That memory usually hit like a wave, knocking the breath from his lungs. This time, it came differently. Softer, almost tender, as if the universe had found a new way to remind him of what still mattered. The delay stretched into an hour, then more. Other passengers complained. Children cried. Daniel stayed. He stayed because leaving felt unthinkable, because standing up would break the fragile circle they had formed. Airport staff eventually noticed the situation, approached carefully, and the truth came out gently, without panic. The girl's family was contacted. The man who had made Daniel's skin crawl was long gone. Relief washed through the gate like a quiet tide. When the girl's aunt finally arrived, breathless and shaken, gratitude spilled out of her in tears and trembling hands. Daniel stepped back then, retreating into the edges again, ready to disappear the way he always did. But one of the girls hugged him without warning, arms tight around his waist, as if trying to hold on to a feeling she didn't have words for yet. Her sisters followed, clinging to him with the fierce sincerity only children possess. Daniel stood frozen, then slowly wrapped his arms around them, heart cracking wide open. Something changed in that embrace. Not dramatically, not all at once, but enough to matter. Daniel felt a warmth he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years, a reminder that love didn't vanish when someone died, that it waited quietly for new places to land. When they finally pulled away, the girls waved until they disappeared down the terminal, looking back over their shoulders again and again as if afraid he might fade. Daniel boarded his flight late, emotions tangled, chest heavy but lighter than it had been that morning. He stared out the window as the plane lifted off, watching the airport shrink beneath him. He thought about his son waiting at home, about the way fear and bravery often lived side by side, about how easy it was to underestimate the impact of a single moment of kindness. He wondered how many times he had walked past someone else's quiet crisis without noticing, lost in his own pain. When he landed, his phone finally charged, and a message from an unknown number waited for him. It was the aunt, somehow having found his contact through airport staff. The message was simple, full of thanks, ending with a photo of the girls smiling, safe, already telling the story of the stranger who became their dad when they needed one most. Daniel stared at the screen for a long time, tears blurring the image, not from sadness this time, but from a deep, steady gratitude that surprised him. In the weeks that followed, Daniel carried that day with him. He told his son the story one quiet evening, leaving out the fear, focusing on the bravery. His son listened wide-eyed, pride blooming across his face in a way that made Daniel's chest ache. Something shifted in their home after that, not the absence of grief, but the presence of possibility. Daniel started volunteering at the airport on weekends, helping families navigate terminals, offering a steady presence to anyone who looked lost. He didn't do it for praise. He did it because he understood now how thin the line was between fear and safety, and how powerful it felt to stand on the right side of it. Months later, a letter arrived in the mail, drawn in crayon and misspelled words, signed by 3 names Daniel would never forget. It thanked him for being brave, for being kind, for being a dad when they needed one. Daniel pinned it to the fridge, right next to his son's report card, a quiet monument to the way broken things could still be beautiful. Just before this story ends, take a moment to leave a comment below telling us what kindness means to you, or share a time when a stranger changed your day more than they'll ever know. As Daniel tucked his son into bed one night, long after the world had gone quiet, he realized something that settled deep into his bones. He had gone to the airport that day feeling alone, convinced his life was defined by what he had lost. He left carrying proof that love didn't ask for perfection or permanence. It only asked for presence. And sometimes, when you show up for someone else, you find yourself again in the process. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that small acts can leave lifelong echoes, please like this video, share it, and let us know in the comments. Your engagement keeps stories like this alive, and somewhere out there, someone might need to hear it today.